Welcome to the game. Hey, today we're going to talk about Infinity Defiance, the new Kickstarter coming from Corvus Belli. About the time you've seen this video, the Kickstarter should be in full swing. What we're going to look at today is a prototype that we've gotten our hands on, so we're going to take a look at the different components, a little bit about the game rules, and I'll give you some of my thoughts at the end of the video. But we are going to talk about Infinity Defiance. Now, if this is any indication of what they have planned based off the size of this box, there's a lot, because what they sent with the prototype doesn't fill this box up. So they have, I think they've got plans to put a lot of stuff in this box. So hopefully this Kickstarter goes really well. I'm excited for it. I love Infinity, Aristea, and I'm really looking forward to Defiance. So what is Defiance? Defiance is a sci-fi dungeon crawler, for lack of a better term. You are 4 characters. You're going to go through different rooms. It is hex-based, so you will you have different movement points, so you'll move around just like you would any other type of dungeon crawler. You're going to fight enemies, and you can level up. There is a campaign system based on it. I think the initial one is supposed to have 12 missions in the campaign. I'm not 100% certain on that. But your characters will get better as you play through it. You'll have access to more weapons depending on how you do on each mission. The mission briefings will tell you what your mission what you need to do, how to interact with the different pieces on the ship, and what your ultimate goal is. The game rules are not super complex. It is designed as a 1 to 4 player. So you can play as one person can play all 4. If you have 2 people, you each split 2 of the heroes. And there is an AI deck which actually dictates what the enemies will do. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later as we get into the rules. But as far as the components go, from my understanding, all of the models will be metal, which is standard Corvus Belli Infinity models. All of the models will be compatible with both Defiance and Infinity. So whether they're going to use models from Infinity in here, or if they have new models that will make for both, my understanding is the 4 characters are unique to this box. I don't know if the enemies will be or not. The Shifasti are the enemies based off of their Operation Wildfire, and we'll talk a little bit more about the enemy models and what their abilities are in the game. Let's start with what is Infinity Defiance?
In Infinity Defiance, up to 4 players control the commando unit of 4 elite soldiers in the Infinity Universe. The characters have been recruited by Bureau Aegis of O12, with the goal of foiling the Evolved Intelligence invasion plans. To achieve that goal, they must travel through the Acheron wormhole, infiltrate into enemy territory, and once there, destroy the new wormhole gate that is being built, which would give the EI the necessary jump stability to launch a full-scale attack. Through several missions, the characters will gain new skills and access to the best equipment and armament until they reach the final mission, when the fate of the human sphere will be in their hands. Each mission is a survival challenge that's played on a modular board, the configuration of which is detailed in the campaign booklet included in the game.
Let me show you the components, I'll show you the basic game setup, and I will show you a little bit about the characters, and we'll go through maybe the first round of play so you can kind of get a feel for how the game works. I definitely want to talk a little bit about how the AI deck works, so you have a better understanding of how the game works. So let's get started. Okay, so this is a stat card for one of the 4 characters. Each character has one. You've got Uma Sorensen. She's Pan-Oceanic, if you don't recognize the blue. From Yujing, you have King Gao. I'm sure I'm mispronouncing that completely. Our Nomad Hacker, Jasmine Jazz. And from Ariadna, we have Caden First Strike. Each one has a model which is excellent. Actually, the models are really good for these characters, and I'll show you a little bit more about those. But I want to talk about each of the cards real quick. In the upper right-hand corner of the card, you have 4 basic stats: their health, their movement, their defense, which is the color of die they're going to roll, and their aggro. And I'll talk about aggro here in a moment of how that works in the game. 2 hand slots, a head slot and a body slot. Now how does that work is each of the weapons, things like that they have available to them will have a slot that it goes into. So they made it very easy with the basic set of they tell you which character they go to. But Umasaurus starts the game with 2 pistols, and so it would cover each hand slot would be full. She also has a head slot for either armor or something like that. Sorry about the glare. Her accuracy helmet allows her, if she's gives her weapons +1 range, so that 1 to 4, which is the range on the weapon, 1 to 4 hexes is now 1 to 5. And her armor is just medium armor. It gives her 1 black die for her defense rolls. So with that, we will outfit the character, and let me show you how that looks. Okay, so once our characters have been outfitted, you'll notice that every piece of equipment lines up with the appropriate icon to set up. And then each one of our characters comes with an auto med kit, which basically kind of kicks in whenever they become unconscious, which we'll talk about a little bit more. But basically, once they've lost all of their health, they become unconscious. The only thing they can do is have the auto med kit kick off for their first action, and that will allow them to basically heal and come back into the game. Some of them have, like his heavy armor covers both slots. So the heavy armor will cover both the head and the body, gives him 2 black dice on his defense rolls. And since he's carrying the heavy shotgun, that will take up both hands. If we move around the table here, our hacker has a hacking device, which basically could either go on her head, has a slot for the head, or could be held in her hand. So if she had a different piece of armor or something to go for her head, she could just hold this hacking device in her hand. Her hacking device, these symbols down here tell us how many basically programs she can add to that. So she has these 3 programs, Pick Lock, which will help her when she's attempting to basically work on the console, Geist Aid, and then Skull Buster, which is basically her attack. And this is really cool. It causes 2 damage for every 1 successful hit that goes through. So the Skull Buster can do a lot of damage. She also has Billy, which is an ally, and she can deploy Billy at any time using an action. And our last character, First Strike, he has medium armor covering his body, and he's got rippers, which will cover both hands, because it's basically 2 big knives for close combat. And we're going to talk about combat here when we actually get into the game, and I'll explain how those work. The models for these are very incredible. Again, these are prototypes. These are metal, but each of these models are really nice. They will be a lot of fun to paint up. Like I said, this is a prototype, but I believe these are the actual final models that they're going to use. But this guy looks really cool. And then Uma, which is this one. Again, she's holding her basic weapons, her 2 pistols, fully armed. Just an idea, they did send a metal version of Uma, just to show that these should be out of the box very easy to put together, as she's only 2 pieces. So Eugene will probably a little bit more than 2, but for the most part, 2 pieces. I know in a lot of their Pan-Oceania, these antennas and stuff come separate, and I'll be honest, that drives me insane because I can never get them glued in properly, but it takes a lot of work. Well, like this, 2 pieces put together. All right, and there you go, and she's put together. So again, if the models are this easy to put together, then getting this game on the table in no time should be pretty easy. Okay, again, this is a dungeon crawler. So like any good dungeon crawler, you're going to have tiles and you're going to have enemies. So let's take a look at the tiles themselves and the enemy modules, or the enemy cards. So very similar to Operation Wildfire, which was their 2-player starter set that just came out. Again, it's a prototype, so the back's not printed. The cardstock that they're using is very nice, very thick, should last a very long time. So very impressed with that. Even the tokens are thick, well done. The dice for the game are from Aristea. So if you've seen the Aristea dice before, then it's basically, you know how these dice will work. And I'll explain how those work. Lots of different tokens, things like that. I want to show you the enemy cards real quick. Here's your basic enemy card. This is the Nox leader. He has his movement, his defense dice. BTS, if they're being hacked, if there's a dash, they cannot be hacked. And then their life on the other side. Then all of their rules. If he's attacking, he can attack 1 to 8. He rolls 2 yellow dice with 1 automatic hit. He's a squad leader. If there are 2 or more Nox units deployed, all Nox units, all enemy units have this switch available. I'll talk about switches in a moment. And then he's got, another ability, request reinforcements. There's 2 of these in a unit. On the right-hand side is their respawn cost. So the enemies in this demo that they sent out are the Nox leader, Nox Spec Ops, who uses a black and yellow for defense, has a little different abilities. The Cadmus, who uses a blue dice, which is one of the best dice there is. Their abilities, now they can hack. So if a model is hackable, like for example our Nomad Hacker, they would use the hacking attack instead of a combi rifle. Now, they also have while they have a respawn, they also have a reinforcement account. And I'll talk about those a little bit later. But as they gain reinforcement tokens, if there is still one of these on there and one has been eliminated, you can spend 1 to bring the additional 1 back into the game. The Nox Hacker, who doesn't start on the board, but he is our first reinforcement available. And again, he is a hacker. And then the boss for this demo is the Gualos, not exactly sure how to pronounce that, but I'm going to continue to call it Gualos until somebody corrects me. He's the big guy, and even in the mission, when he comes on board, there's something that gets read to the characters to basically, he's big, he's beefy, just run. Okay, so for this particular mission, for the demo that they've sent, our objective for the characters who start set up here is to get Valkyrie off the ship. Now, Valkyrie is an extreme bodyguard who has been captured, and she's here. If you went to Gen Con or you picked up the Gen Con bundle, you have that model. And I'm hoping that it's going to come in the box maybe as a stretch goal, or they'll include it again, because for those of you who didn't get it, it's a really cool model. But in order to get her out, we have to open this door, and we have to get her to our escape pod, or our ship basically, which is the Stalker, which is here. Now, you'll notice on the Stalker we have our basically the ship's pilot, but she's also surrounded by 2 Nox leaders. Nox leader. Here I've got 2 Nox Spec Ops. Now again, these models are not final, and I'm probably using the wrong models, but it's what they sent me. And then our models, which are right here, guarding the door, our Cadmus, who are also our hackers. So once she's freed, she does become part of the character's team as soon as we interact with her, and then we can use her abilities and her switches to go forward. Now, I kind of talked about switches, which I just mentioned. We're going to talk about that as soon as we start attacking, which we're going to get to real quick. 2 other things to note. Like I said before, there is an AI deck. The AI deck, all the cards look something like this. They have a blue side and a red side. Well, why a blue side and a red side, and what do those symbols mean? Well, the symbols tell us what they're going to do, and depending on what level of difficulty we're either using the blue side or the red side of the enemy card. And you'll see on the red side that he's a little tougher. His abilities will change some, but we start with the blue side, until we're told different. Another thing that we'll discuss in a little more detail is the alert level, which could also, once you get to maximum alert of level 5, could flip these cards over and make the enemies much more dangerous. So we'll be using the blue sides of these cards. This dictates what our enemies will be able to do. Now, since there's 2 in each unit, the first model will use the first 2, the second model will use the next 2, and they'll do them in order, and I'll explain what those mean when we get there. The other thing to note is with each of the enemy cards, there's another card which dictates each one of them. These are shuffled up and randomly placed down, and this is how you determine who's going to go first. So after a character goes, then one of the enemies is going to go. We're going to flip the card. It's going to tell us the Nox Spec Op is going to go, and we're going to draw his actions, and we'll follow those actions. So let's go ahead and play through a turn. I'll show you how all this works. All right, let's go ahead and go through part of the turn so I can show you how the models interact with the board, how they move, how they attack, and how an AI will take its turn. So we're going to start with a Eugene player who's going to make his first move, which is to just go ahead and move. His first action will be to move, and he can move up to 5. Unless there is a purple line or a blue line or red line that's blocking, this is basically just part of the floor, part of whatever it is. It's small enough that they can just step over, jump over very easily. Only in part of the board, and in the demo, there's only one spot that has these purple lines. This is, you cannot go through that at all. So you can't go from this space through that. That is a wall. And that's where the door goes. Other than that, you can basically freely move. Between the tiles, we have these corridors which connect them, so this guy cannot go from here to here. He would have to go through the corridor. So our Eugene player has moved. His second action is going to be to attack, so he's going to use his
heavy shotgun. Now the heavy shotgun will use 2 blue dice and 1 automatic hit.
Then he's got switches which will allow him to take 2 shields or a hit and a exclamation point or an exclamation point and do something different. Now switches will happen before the defensive dice of the enemy are taken into consideration. I'll show you how that works. So he's going to roll 2 blue dice for his attack. The enemy, who is a Nox Spec Op, is going to roll a black and a yellow. So since they're all different colors, we're going to roll those, and we get 2 shields, which based off of the heavy shotgun's attack, 2 shields add 1 additional success to your roll. 2 successes, no defense, means that Nox Spec Op would take 2 damage. He only can take 2 damage, so he is dead and removed from the board. Now, anytime a model does damage to an enemy, aggro comes into play. Aggro is basically a measure of how threatening the character is. For the enemies, more successful the character is at inflicting damage, hacking, things like that, the more attention they're going to draw from the security system. So he's going to take an aggro. All he has to do is 1 damage during his activation. You do not take enough aggro for every damage. He did 2 damage, he still only gets 1 aggro. If a model at the end of their activation has more aggro than they can take, so for example, Jazz can only take 4 aggro. If she, at the end of her activation, she has 5 or 6, those extra will become reinforcement tokens, and those reinforcement tokens at the end of the turn will allow more enemies to come onto the board. So he has taken his 1 aggro, and now the enemy will take its turn. Okay, so now that it's the enemy's turn, the first thing to do is we're going to flip over a card to see which enemy is going to activate. In this case, it is going to be their Nox leader, and what he's going to do. So based off of these icons on the left, the first Nox unit, and your enemies are going to be labeled like 1 and 2, will move towards the nearest enemy and then shoot at the nearest enemy. And then the second one is going to do the exact same thing, move towards the nearest enemy and shoot at the nearest enemy. Now hopefully they put all of those onto a cheat sheet, or actually one of those cards that same size would be great. But there is an entire diagram that explains all the different moves.
Each AI card has an action and a target. The actions being assault, acquire target, attack, withdraw, retreat, or be focused, and the targets are the most or the lesser of either aggro, damage, or distance.
Line of sight plays into this, so if you can't see the model, you can't really go after whichever one that is, so you have to go after whichever one fits that category. So for this particular mission, the leaders have a rule that says they cannot leave the stalker. So they're going to move as far as they can to get as close as they can or to acquire the nearest enemy. So the first one is going to move and go 1, 2, 3 spaces, does not leave, but is in line of sight. Line of sight is drawn from any corner or side of 1 hex, no blocking terrain or enemies or friendlies, and I can see any side or corner of the target. So with that, he has acquired. The Nox leader, for his attack using a combi rifle, has 2 yellow dice plus 1 automatic hit, and his switch is 2 exclamation points. Gankao has a blue die for his defense, but since he has the heavy armor, he also gets 2 black dice. So he's going to have 2 black dice plus a blue. Our Nox leader is going to have 2 yellow dice plus an automatic hit. We're going to roll all those dice. You cannot always roll them together, but this is what we have rolled. Now, the Nox leader will immediately take those 2, use the switch, and turn it into an additional hit. So it now has 2 successes. But our Yujing character has rolled 2 blocks, which will nullify all damage. So now the second model will move, and it does the same thing. It's going to move. Its movement is 5, so he's going to move up to obtain a target. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He can see through the corridor and see the same enemy who happens to still be the closest. And it's going to be the exact same attack. 2 yellow dice plus a hit against a blue and 2 black. Okay, he's going to roll. And this time we have a little bit more. Okay, so this time we already have 1 hit due to the combi rifle, plus an additional hit. The 2 exclamation points turn into a 3rd hit. Our Yujing player has rolled 2 shields to block 1, so he will take 1 damage. And we'll put that on his card. So the next player to take her turn is going to be Jasmine. And our hacker is going to go and attempt to hack the console or interact with the console and attempt to either to undo the magnetic clamps that are holding the ship in place or to possibly open the door. Now, you can move through a friendly model with the same cost as if you were moving through an empty space. If at any point you want to move through an enemy model, you can, but it costs you 2. It would be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So she can move right through Uma because she's a friendly model. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. She's going to come over here to interact with that console. So to interact with the console, she is just going to use her hacking device. Her hacking device has a range of 0 to 6, but when you're interacting with the console, you do need to be next to it. And it's going to roll an orange and a yellow die. Anybody can interact with the console and roll a blue die. Hers gives her a yellow and an orange. Plus, she can use the program lockpick, which will give her an additional yellow die. So let's roll the dice and see what she gets and see what she's going to need to open the doors or the magnetic clamps. So per the mission briefing, for this particular console 1 shield and an exclamation point will open the security door. A single success will open magnetic clamp A, and a single shield will open magnetic clamp B. Now, each of these does a little more. So let's see what we roll, and we'll come back to this and see what we can actually do. Okay, wow. So with that roll, she has successfully, she can complete opening the security door and opening the magnetic clamp, but since she's only rolled 1 shield, she cannot release the second metal clamp yet. Or she could release both clamps and not open the door to Valkyrie. So knowing that opening that second magnetic clamp is going to release the Gualos and put it onto the board, we're not going to do that one. We'll go ahead and do the first 2. Okay, so over here on our console board, now we're going to go ahead and mark which one she has done. So she has completed the first one, which was the exclamation point and the shield. Now my demo kit did not come with the exclamation point, so I'm just going to turn this shield like that for the exclamation point and the shield to show that that one is complete. And then she also had rolled a star, a success, so that one is complete. So go ahead to match what is on our mission briefing. The only one she has left is the third one. Okay, so now we're going to do the rest of the actions that come with successfully hacking the console. So the first thing that happened is we were able to successfully open the door, and now Valkyrie is a usable character. So she will now go to the characters, and any of them can play her, and she is now able to start moving around the ship and attacking. Remember, we're trying to get her off the ship to win the game. It also says to increase the alert level by 1, so the alert level is going to go up to 2, and we're going to add 1 reinforcement token to the reinforcement pool. So our reinforcement pool now has 1 token in it. If there is at least 1 Nox in the Stalker, remove Agnes Gehring from the game. So basically, the door went off, and they have just executed our pilot. Probably shouldn't have hacked that already, but just wanted to show you how it worked. With the success, we released Magnetic Clamp A. So Magnetic Clamp A is now green. So it has been released. The only one we still have to release is B before we can launch the ship. But that also added 1 to our reinforcement pool. So we now have 2 tokens in there at the end of the turn. So now that we're done with our Nomad player has completed her last action, it is the AI's turn again. This time we flip over our Spec Ops, and our Spec Ops have a special rule down at the bottom, which says if there is only 1 enemy left from this unit on the board at the beginning of this unit's activation, ignore their AI card and perform these instructions. Attack the nearest character and retreat. Okay? So he's our only Spec Ops left. He's going to attack our Yu-Ching player. Our Yu-Ching player is going to roll his defense of 2 black dice and 1 blue die. And our Spec Ops player is going to roll 2 yellow dice as his attack. He rolls 2 yellow dice plus 1 success to start with. We roll that. Our defense was 1. Now, since per our leader card, the leader card says if there's at least 2 or more Nox units deployed on the board, so we have Nox leaders and we have Nox Spec Ops, all Nox enemies have access to this. So with that, he's going to use those 2 exclamation points to make it 2 successes, because he already has 1. Our Yu-Ching player will block 1. Our Yu-Ching player will take another damage. So our Yu-Ching player is up to 2 damage with 1 aggro. Our Nox player is sitting at 1 aggro. Our hacker is sitting at 1 aggro because she had interacted with the console. And now it comes back to our third character's turn, and it goes back and forth like that. That basically gives you an idea of how the game is played. At the end of the round, however many Reforce tokens you have left, you'll be able to use to bring in reinforcements. Now the Gualo gets deployed. He is not part of our reinforcement pool, but the hacker is. And the way this works is if another player, say Fire Strike, comes in and takes out the other Spec Op, that Spec Op, anytime a unit is completely destroyed, a reinforcement token goes into the reinforcement pool. And then that unit, as long as he has reinforcement cost, goes to the bottom of your reinforcement stack. And so say at the end of this turn, something else had happened, and say we had those in there. So our reinforcement pool has 4. It's the end of the turn. We're going to spend 2 to bring our Nox hackers into the game, and we'll spend the other 2 to bring our Spec Ops back into the game. And so you can quickly see how we can start to flood the board with more and more enemies as they get reinforced. There are different reinforcement points on the board. For this particular demo, they are here and down here. And as soon as they open the clamp up, the second clamp, then our Gualos appears on the board down here. And he is big, he is bad, and the flight crew will really just want to get out as soon as possible. That's basically the game. Each of the models has different abilities. Each of the models has, like the Gualos, which we didn't take a big look at earlier. He's nasty. He can be hacked. Let me show you how hacking works real quick. It's very simple. It's just a normal attack. Say our Cadmus is going to hack our Nomad player. He would roll his hack here, which is the exact same thing as earlier. It's the same type of attack. You're going to roll a yellow and or an orange and a blue, except we're going to use her hacking device's BTS, which is 2 black dice. Normally she would just get 1 blue die against an enemy attack, but if it's a hacking attack, she gets the 2 black dice per the hacking device. You roll the dice and it's the exact same thing. Successes versus blocks. That's the basics of the game. There is a campaign to this, like I talked about. There's some other tokens, there's abilities. They can get focused or stunned. Models can become unconscious. When a character model becomes unconscious, and once they're reanimated, basically they're conscious again, they're actually going to take 2 of these cards and they're going to choose which one they want to happen to them. So like for this one, he was clumsy. Nullify all of your hits, all of your successes on defense rolls, which actually isn't too bad, unless you have a switch that can use those. Or a bleeding wound, you suffer -2 health. Whatever you do, they'll always start to reduce your health. So the more damage you take over a campaign, the worse your character is going to get, the unhealthier they're going to be. And you kind of see how that'll play into it. So their health will fluctuate as the game goes on. Okay, so that is the basics of Defiance. I really like where they're going with this game. I like the models. The components are great. The cards are really good. The cards are stiff. I like the components. I like the game. There's a few things, again, it's a prototype, so there's a few things they're working on. I do think that the AI deck does slow down the characters pretty much, because if you're playing with 3 or 4 characters, everybody's pretty much going to know what they're going to want to do. Then you got to flip the AI deck over. You got to see who it is. You have to go look at the chart to figure out exactly what that model is doing. Check line of sight, things like that. It's a 1 to 4 player game. It's designed as co-op. One thing I think that they should look at is making it a 1 to 5 player game. We did try it as a competitive game rather than fully co-op. 1 player played the characters, 1 played the AI, using the exact same way. It just went a little quicker. So I think with those slight modifications, you could have a game master who kind of plays the enemies, and it'll speed up the gameplay, which we tried, and like I said, it worked pretty well. It actually seemed to speed things up because 1 player just concentrated on the AI, didn't concentrate on having to play characters at the same time. This game has a lot going for it. I really think that with a few tweaks, again, the Kickstarter probably won't be available till the end of 2020. Well, Kickstarter, the fulfillment will be to the end of 2020, so I have a feeling that probably got at least another good 6 or 7 months of gameplay. Rulebook needs a few tweaks, but again, it's a prototype, and from what I have played on a prototype, it's really cool. I really like it. I think it can go places. I like the idea of it, and I'm really anxious to see where this Kickstarter will take it and what other things can be unlocked, what new enemies can be unlocked, and just how they're going to fill up this gigantic box. So that's really got me excited. So hopefully this has helped. Hopefully you'll join us on the Kickstarter, and hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks again. I am Shawn with Texas Gamer Geeks, the Game Room. Check us out on YouTube, subscribe to our channel, drop any comments below on this video. Let us know what you think. Let us know what you're excited about for Infinity's Defiance, and we'll see you soon. Thanks for watching.